Hi YouTube, it's Catherine Michelle. Um, I got a call from someone I know, the same person I've been talking to in the Philippines, just a little bit ago. It's actually early morning for them right now. Of course, like 1 o'clock in the morning, and here it's like, I don't know, 9, 10, 11 o'clock. I forget what time it is, but anyway, here's the update on what's happening in the Philippines. The entire country went on lockdown today. They have 195 confirmed cases, 12 dead, and all stores are to close if they can. In fact, it's being highly suggested that all stores close. So even if a grocery store owner feels like they need to close, then they can close. Although I believe, from what I understood them to say, that it's not encouraged that all grocery stores, and especially pharmacies and stuff, close. That wasn't the whole thing, but everyone else it should close down. And so their president was saying that he wants everything closed, social distancing, which is what we see around the world at this moment, and that soon, if things continue to get worse in their country, the only reason for them, they're going to do the same thing everywhere else, that everybody's going to be quarantined in their home, and the only reason that they are to leave is if they have like a medical issue or they have to go out and get food. However, if it gets to a really bad point, then they would use their military to deliver food to everyone's houses. I pray it doesn't get that bad in their country, because when hearing that, for me, if that were to happen here in the United States, that would, I don't know, that would be not good, if to rely on a military to deliver food. So yeah, not that doesn't give me, that would make me feel really comfortable if that were to be said here in America. And also they said their president was saying that he was encouraging their employers to pay employees something called a 13-month pay. I'm sorry, I'm reading from my notes. A 13-month pay. I don't quite understand, didn't understand the explanation of that, but the best I could gather what that meant is they're asking their employers to pay their employees a salary even though they're not coming into work for the month, so that the employees at least have money to live and to go and buy their essentials and buy their food and pay their bills. And he was telling their country to, now's not the time to think about yourself, but to help their community, which I thought that's a really good thing, because regardless of how the situation works out everywhere, the best hope for anyone's survival, in not just life survival, but mentally, spiritually, physically, the best way to survive is to get together as your community, help each other. I've said that so much. I truly believe that. So I thought that was a really good ideology for him to put out to his country. Also, their airport is still open. However, I think that they're closing down where flights go. If I understood correctly, they do not have any domestic flights. I think some people can still come into the country, and I believe they fly into Manila. Again, this is, if I'm understanding correctly, they fly into Manila, but then they can't leave because Manila's on absolute lockdown. So you can fly in, but it's like, I know this is awful, but I think of that song Hotel California. They can check in, but they can't leave. So I'm not sure flying into Manila, unless you live there, is a good idea at this point. And they also said all transportation is suspended. Anything, they said that they saw, not sure if it was on the news or if they saw it in person, but the local police were actually stopping. They have out there, it's like an open-sided big van with lots of seats, so lots of people. That's how they drive around. here in the US, in a lot of places, we have these big buses, but they have like these, converted van. I don't know what else to call them. Say like a big long Jeep or something. But the officers were actually stopping these vehicles and having, if there were too many, they would actually make some people get off because only 6 people were allowed per vehicle. So they're really, they're doing what they're called advanced quarantine. Also, the one thing that their president was really trying to stress and say that that what is happening in the Philippines is not martial law, and they're just taking these measures to protect their country. Although, it's scary. It's scary to think that any country has to do that, and we know we've heard this from several other countries. They're all doing the same thing, and that's what I was telling the person I was talking to, because they hadn't heard and didn't have any contact with or to see anything like from Italy. I think everyone by now has pretty much heard of China, what they went through. And I said, well, I told them the same thing is happening in countries like Italy, and they were unaware of that. So I said, don't be surprised if quote unquote martial law goes into effect, because it seems like that's where everybody is heading to a degree. So I told them, I said, be ready. I gave them an update on what's happening here in the US. We haven't reached that stage of this pandemic yet. And, we can always hope that we don't get there. I'm not naive enough to think that we won't, at least some parts of our country won't end up in that type of a quarantine situation. But I'm hopeful. Again, it's always good to hope, but I'm hopeful that the steps our president has taken will really mitigate the spread of this disease. And also, one thing I've noticed, which, the old, are your spidey senses tingling? What is really getting my spidey senses tingling is every country at the same time, virtually the same time, regardless, it seems like it doesn't matter what time of day it is. They are all saying things at the same time. All stores are closing. They're all reporting this at the same time. They're going to shut down this. Everybody reports it at the same time. So that tells me that, all of these countries and all of these leaders, they're all talking to each other. And they're coming up with these decisions to make these types of enactments in their countries, cohesively. I don't believe in coincidences. I truly believe that this is a worldwide effort. And what does that mean? Let's just say I'm on edge now. I mean, I always have been on edge, but it's like it's getting more and more and more. Not in the sense that I'm panicking, because again, panic doesn't help anybody. Certainly doesn't help the person who's doing it. But being informed, be aware, be cognizant, pay attention to what's going on. And although it's hard to be prepared for every situation, right now this isn't every situation. And the writing on the wall is getting clearer and clearer. And so that's my advice and my update, or not my advice, my 2 cents, and the update on what's happening in the Philippines. And hopefully, because it is nighttime there, or actually early morning, it's like 1 o'clock. What time is it here? Yeah, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:12 there in the Philippines. So the person I spoke with said they're going to do their best to get video. I asked them if they could get video like inside the hospitals, because they were uncertain as to whether or not this is really real and was it being blown out of proportion. And I said, well, the best way we can find out is let's get video of the hospitals. As this is going now, that you now have 12 deaths that occurred, and you have now more cases that are showing up. And I explained to them that too, because they're like, well, how did it jump from what a few cases they had up to 195 cases? And so I explained to them, I said, because of the testing. They weren't testing it at first, and then the more tests they do these big groups of tests that as they're coming in, and it takes several days. So then that day, it could be all of a sudden they have a whole bunch of results, and then they're all given the results at the same time. So it seems like it's just jumping out of nowhere, but in reality, it has been this way the whole time. It's just the tests are now confirming what, I'm sure the person who has it already knew. They did not tell me what is happening with the people who have the virus. And you know what? I didn't even think to ask. I was like really uh-oh, their entire country's on it. And it seems like an extreme lockdown at this point. And again, I wouldn't like that if that happened here in the US. I am more than happy to self-isolate in my home and keep the distance. I'm okay with that. But to have everything shut down and locked down, not a fan. Just not a fan. So I will think to ask them that question later. And if you guys have any questions that you would like me to ask this person over there in the Philippines, please feel free to write that in the comments, and I will bring those questions to their attention. But it may take a few days to get answers because they don't always have internet. And I think it's just how things normally run over there. I don't think that's associated with the virus and what's going on. Okay, I think that's it for now. That's the update from the Philippines. And again, if you're not prepared, just might be too late for you. We've been telling you all along, and I don't want to do an I told you so. But for those who don't have anything, and I'm not talking to those who already have your stash, it's time for you to let those who don't have get to the stores and at least get something that they need for a day or two. Let's not hoard it all. And I'm talking to myself as well, because I did buy my main diet. I'm a vegetarian. I will not eat meat. So my main diet really is like quinoa, rice, every kind of bean you could think of. There are beans galore everywhere, vegetables, and some fruit. I don't eat fruit like I really used to. So that's really my diet. And I did buy some beans and rice ahead of time just because it's what I eat. And so I'm telling myself too, when I go to the store, if I see some beans, my natural instinct is always to take a bag, just what I've always done. So I have to tell myself, don't do that. Leave that for someone else. Maybe somebody else needs some food too. So let's take care of each other. By taking care of each other, we take care of ourselves. Have a great day.